Good afternoon and welcome to a very, very special occasion, a convocation in honor of the Lawrence Herbert School of Communication and in honor of Lawrence Herbert. I'm Herman Berliner, Hofstra's Provost and Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs. I also have the privilege of being the Lawrence Herbert Distinguished Professor. Let me introduce the members of our platform party, beginning with the chairperson of our Board of Trustees, Chairperson Janice Meyer. The reason for the convocation and the reason for the naming and the person we're honoring, Trustee Emeritus Dr. Lawrence Herbert. The one person on our campus who needs no introduction, our President, Stuart Rabinowitz. The Dean of our Lawrence Herbert School of Communication, Dean Evan Cornog. The Chairperson of our Department of Rhetoric, Dr. Philip Dalton. The Chairperson of our Journalism, Media Studies, and Public Relations Department, Professor Carol Fletcher. And the Chairperson of our Radio, TV, and Film Department, Dr. Mario Murillo. We also have two Hofstra trustees that are in attendance this afternoon, Trustees T.J. Bindra and the Honorable Arthur J. Kremer. To formally begin our convocation, the Chairperson of our Board of Trustees, Janice Meyer.
Good afternoon and welcome. It's nice to see so many people here today. As you saw, I gimped in or hobbled in because I broke my foot last week, and if it were up to Alan Kelly, I would have been coming down the aisle in a wheelchair or on a golf cart, but I said no, I don't want to be making that kind of an entrance today. In any event, again, welcome to Hofstra University and thanks for being here on this very special day. We call this type of ceremony a convocation, but it is really sort of a homecoming because we're recognizing the accomplishments and the contributions of a very distinguished alumnus, Lawrence Herbert. Today we're celebrating the best of Hofstra University, and we all know that there are a lot of bests about this university, but it's clear that one of the things that has sustained this institution over time is the loyalty of its alumni. That's why this convocation ceremony is especially gratifying, because we are recognizing the accomplishments and the contributions of such a distinguished alumnus, Larry's steadfast support, which we have seen in so many ways over the years, speaks volumes about what it means to be a member of the Hofstra family, as it does about the confidence and the faith that we all have in the future of this university. It's just an extraordinary time for Hofstra. As I hope everyone knows, in the last 5 years, we've opened a School of Medicine, we've opened a School of Engineering, a School of Health Sciences and Services, and hosted 2 presidential debates. And now we come together to celebrate the next chapter of our School of Communication as the Lawrence Herbert School of Communication. Hofstra has been an important part of my life, and serving as the chair of the Board of Trustees has been one of, if not the greatest honors that I've ever had. And it's moments like these when we can look to the past of Hofstra and celebrate the future of Hofstra that make me the proudest. So as a colleague and a fellow alum and a friend, congratulations and thank you, Larry.
I'm pleased to now introduce Dean Evan Cornog.
Thank you, Dr. Berliner. The Lawrence Herbert School of Communication is only now taking his distinguished name, but it was founded as a school in 1995, and many of its programs have far earlier roots on this campus. So when I was asked to speak today about its mission, the first thing that came to mind was how, over the years, its mission has both remained constant and changed radically. The constancy comes from the purpose we all share, to examine and explore a wide variety of issues concerning human communication. Some aspects of this are highly practical or technical. What is the best way to light this scene for my movie? How can I get the police department to give me the statistics I need for my news story? Others are challenging in different ways. What story do I want to tell and why? How will my movie or article, memo, decision make the world a better place? The radical change comes from the constant disruption that has beset the world of communication since the school's founding in 1995. That year, the internet was still a novelty, if that, in the lives of most Americans. Just to set the scene a bit, in 1995, Apple was still just a computer company and was near bankruptcy. In the summer of that year, a new website selling books online, a new word for many of us, appeared with the name of Amazon.com. It would be 3 years before Google was founded, and 9 years would pass before Facebook appeared. There was no Fox News Network, no MSNBC. Tweeting was still something confined to birds. Today, one could argue that Apple, Amazon, Google, and Facebook are the most influential corporations on the planet, and they are all now communications companies. For a school of communication, that has been both good news and bad news. The good news was and is that the subject of communication has become one of the central subjects of modern life. The bad news, at least for a time, has been that some of the industries into which our graduates enter after they leave Hofstra have been undergoing rapid and disruptive change. The upshot has been that the school has become much larger than it was at the time of its founding, as students rightly see the various communications fields we teach as growth areas of the 21st century economy. But the sorts of jobs that are available and the skills needed to land those jobs are constantly evolving. While the fields we prepare students for are growth areas, the distinctions between communications professions are getting less clear. Public relations professionals now need basically the same skill set as content providers that journalists have, and journalists are now expected to be much more aware of the economic consequences of their work. Reporters are expected to drive traffic to their news organization's website and thus boost ad revenue. As celluloid film continues to decline as a physical medium, the digital technologies that are replacing it are bringing film and TV practices into closer alignment. Yet in spite of this ongoing convergence, for those inside those professions, there remain clear distinctions between PR and journalism, or between TV and film. Many of us at the Herbert School, of course, worked in these industries before coming to academia and harbor strong emotional and intellectual affinities to certain ways of doing things. My first job after college was at the New Yorker magazine, where editorial independence from the business side was so pronounced that when the Surgeon General report in 1964 came out showing the link between smoking and lung cancer, the editor of the magazine declared that the magazine would no longer accept cigarette ads. If you look at magazines in the early 60s, you'll see that was a pretty big sacrifice. Those were very different days. The publishers, but absolutely, will go along with that. Very, very different time. My point here is that adapting to change is not just a matter of buying new technologies and integrating them into your curriculum. There is an even more daunting task of re-examining the very assumptions behind your work as the ground beneath your feet shifts. In decades past, technologies changed, but at a slower pace and along a more predictable pathway. Now changes happen so swiftly and alter so much that everything is up for grabs. That is one reason why the liberal arts education remains central to our mission, and why each of our departments has a significant commitment to teaching critical thinking about communication, whether it be through the ancient study of rhetoric, critical and theoretical perspectives on film and television, or scholarly examination of the role of mass media in our society. Earlier I said that Apple, back in 1995, was still a computer company. Today, even though they still make computers, they have become intimately involved in the marketing of various kinds of digital content, digitally transmitted songs, books, TV shows, and films. Along the way, they have transformed those businesses and undercut many traditional power bases. Remember when record companies mattered? It used to be commonplace to say that the industrial age had passed on and we were now living in the information age. This was a very common idea in the 1970s and 1980s and beyond. But today we live in an age of communication, one that has been made possible by the digital innovations of the information age, but that has now passed beyond that to a new paradigm. This age of communication is what we now have to educate our students to master, to excel in, and to provide leadership for. Fortunately, we have always had a good formula for this in a curriculum that provides strong technical and practical skills while remaining steadfastly committed to a liberal arts foundation. Together, this combination means that our graduates are ready for the jobs out there today, but also able to adapt to new conditions in the years and decades ahead. All of which leads me in the end to Lawrence Herbert. Today we live in an age of visual communication, and Larry Herbert's Pantone color matching system is part of the fundamental vocabulary of our age. As our graduates seek to convey messages to their various audiences, color is one of the most important tools they work with, whether it is on the set of a film, in the pages of a magazine, or as part of the design of a manufactured product. Decades ago, Mr. Herbert combined a detailed knowledge of the printing business with a vision of what was needed for the future. President Rabinowitz will tell you more about Larry Herbert's remarkable achievements, but suffice to say that he is one of the founding fathers of the age of communication. The business he built upon his standardization and rationalization of the spectrum has been a great success, and we are grateful that he has shared his success with Hofstra to the lasting benefit of the students of the School of Communication, the Lawrence Herbert School of Communication. Thank you from all of us, Mr. Herbert.
And it's a pleasure now to introduce the president of Hofstra University, Stuart Rabinowitz.
Thank you. Lawrence Herbert just looked at his watch and said, stretch it out, stretch it out. It's easy to do. It's easy to do. So I have the privilege of introducing Lawrence Herbert today. And I have to say that he is a man of impeccable taste and judgment. And obviously, he chose the School of Communication primarily because of his career and how consistent it is with what the School of Communication does, which our dean just explained. But he's also chosen a superb jewel in Hofstra's crown. The School of Communication is, simply stated, excellent. In fact, it was started in 1995, and I was then dean of the law school, but I'm still trying to find a way to take credit for the creation of the school, the way I did for School of Medicine and Engineering and so on. I want to take credit for all the good things that we have done. But seriously, the School of Communications, we're incredibly proud of. It's got a superb faculty, deeply dedicated to their professions and deeply dedicated to their students. The students are among the brightest and the most active in terms of community and campus that we have on our campus. And all right, so they tried to search my garbage once and see what I threw away, but I forgive them. That's just part of good investigative journalism. So, but it is a superb school that we are incredibly proud of. So we've honored Larry many, many times before for both his achievements and his generosity. We gave him, I think, every award we have, although we could probably think of a few more in the future. We gave him the Alumni Achievement Award. We gave him the Distinguished Service Award. We gave him the Alumnus of the Year Award. The university honored him with an honorary Doctor of Humane Letters and established, as you heard from Provost Berliner, a professorship in his honor. And earlier this year, we honored him at our 17th annual Hofstra Gala. But this is different. The naming of a school in perpetuity after an individual is different from all the other honors. It is, in my opinion, the very highest honor a university can bestow, because it recognizes exceptional dedication and enduring commitment to the institution and its ideals. And it makes a statement that the institution is forever glad to have every single student and every single faculty member who will work in that school of communication know the name and know the story of Lawrence Herbert. So we are honoring a man whose contributions to Hofstra and to the School of Communication and to the communication industries worldwide has been, and it's not an overstatement, although presidents often overstate, I'll admit that, has been transformative. As the inventor of the Pantone color matching system, Larry has changed the way the world communicates. And his language of color continues to be the international standard for thousands of industries, thousands and thousands, including, as Evan pointed out, print and publishing and graphic arts and film and video and probably some others that I left out. As an alumnus of this university and a former member and officer of the Board of Trustees, and since this past Tuesday as trustee emeritus, unanimously elected by our current board, and as a generous supporter, Larry has been instrumental in helping Hofstra become the world-class university it is today. He grew up in Brooklyn, and from what I hear, not with a silver spoon in his mouth. He commuted to Hofstra while working a full-time day job in order to pay for his education here. He actually graduated from the university with a degree in biology and chemistry. And within a few years, and I mean a few, I think it was like 5 or 6 years, he went from being something called a temporary color matcher. I sort of get what that means, matcher, and not a permanent job, to chairman and chief executive officer of Pantone. That company, powered by Larry's vision and entrepreneurial spirit, quickly grew into a global brand. And Larry has spent his life not only building that business to more and more successes, but sharing his successes, not just with Hofstra, but with a number of charitable organizations and institutions. So when you put this all together, Larry Herbert, it is clear, embodies the Hofstra ideals of pride and purpose. And his life and his career sends a powerful message to our students that success is a journey that requires determination, hard work, integrity, a belief in oneself, and a Hofstra education. No challenge has been too large for Larry or too difficult for him. Just the other day, I saw him, I think for the first time, acting in a movie on television called Seduced and Abandoned. That's, at his age, he's starting an acting career. Tonight, we honor his tremendous contributions of time and effort to the betterment of his alma mater, and his recent gift to the School of Communication will assure the university and the school that the school's best is yet to come. And it is much needed, that kind of support, Larry. What Evan left out of his speech was how expensive all of these changes in, in equipment and medium have been. But the gift will ensure that this School of Communication continues its path to being one of the very best schools of communication in the nation. So, Larry, I would like to ask you to come forward. I couldn't stretch it more than this, Larry. I mean, I could give them a lecture on the Constitution, but sort of not appropriate. There's supposed to be a very heavy memento that I am giving you. Yeah. They warned me. It's heavy. We gave you a bowl at the gala, so now we're giving you whatever shape this is. And it is, it's a sail, okay. And it is inscribed as follows. Hofstra University gratefully acknowledges and recognizes Dr. Lawrence Herbert, class of 1951, innovator, entrepreneur, and philanthropist, for his outstanding contributions, distinguished career, dedication, and generosity. Presented at the convocation establishing forevermore the Lawrence Herbert School of Communication at Hofstra University, dated October 30th, 2013. Congratulations and thank you. I'm just going to leave it here.
Thank you, Stu. You know, when you see a situation like this and you appear here, you become a little bit humbled. But communication was where I had to be, because I always felt that people are not communicating with one another, just generally. And in my particular business, when it came to color, they really didn't know what the hell they were talking about most of the time. I had to figure out how to solve this particular problem before I left this earth. And, you know, you speak to an artist and you say, what color do you want? He says, give me a rose red. Yeah? For what part of the world? You know, daytime, nighttime, whatever it is. So you had to have a more precise language. It not only deals with color, but it deals with other things too, with people speaking to somebody. You know, it's a situation whereby you have to be very, very clear about what you say. All right, it reminds me of the story about this man walking on the street, and he meets a psychiatrist, and he says, hello, and the psychiatrist says, what did he mean by that? And that's what happens in a lot of cases. People don't understand, they don't communicate clearly. And I decided that I was going to do a system that had to be perfect, so that you wouldn't be on a question of what does he really mean by that. And so by picking a color was just one thing. But by giving it a specific identification was another thing. So that somebody in Tokyo could talk to somebody in New York, and they're both talking to somebody in Bangladesh, whatever it is. They say, I want a Pantone 501, and everybody now knows what you're talking about. There isn't much more I could say, or do I want to say about myself, because you've heard it ad nauseum from these guys up here. But the most important thing about communication is to be absolutely clear about what you're saying. And the school is devoted to communication. And I don't care if you're studying film, graphics, or whatever you're doing, you have to be clear about what you're saying. You know, I have a son who's at the American Film Institute right now studying advanced techniques in direction. And he's probably as crazy as I am about being specific about certain things, and he has trouble with people making sure that they get clear identification. It's important that we maintain support of these institutions, because who is coming through these institutions but the next generation of people? And they have to be able to understand what they're learning so that they can tell the next people what's going on. Otherwise, the country will just fail into something that nobody will understand. And these people will have to take a leadership position. Now, what is a leadership position? Leadership is having the courage to go against the advice of so-called experts and doing what your instinct tells you is right for the next generation. When you think about that, you realize how important communication is. That's the reason I chose to support the school communication, and we'll continue to support it to make sure that it's in the position of being number one. And if we can make it number one in the country, we'll make it number one, Stuart. Okay? Can I keep you awake? All right, again, I want to thank you very much for this honor. It has really touched me very much. I never thought I'd be here. And the only thing I'd like to say is one person who was responsible for being here today, unfortunately couldn't make it today because he's not feeling well. I'm talking about Trustee David Mack, a very dear friend. So thank you very much, and I look forward to meeting you as we finish. Thank you.
This concludes our convocation, but the celebration continues. Please join us at the University Club for a reception. Thank you very much.